All right, fountain pen friends, here we are back again talking about fountain pens. And I was recently asked to talk about fountain pens, my top 10 favorite fountain pens. And that was one of the things that I've seen a lot of people do. For me, it's a bit more difficult than that because favorite in what way? And so I started thinking about it. And the one thing that I kind of came up with was that there are different purposes and uses for fountain pens. There are the ones that we like to write with all the time. There are the ones that we like to look at, to hold, to share, whatever. There's lots of different reasons to like a fountain pen. And so the one group that was the easiest for me to come up with right away was the fountain pens that are the most comfortable to hold in the hand and use to write with for long writing sessions. Now, many fountain pens are going to be very comfortable to hold for a very long time, and it's going to be very subjective to the person who's holding them. So these are my personal favorite, most comfortable fountain pens to hold and to use for very long writing sessions. And by very long, I mean 10, 20, 12 page, a lot of pages of writing. And it's, I've actually had to in the past in my life sat down and had to write for hours on end. And so this is, for me, these are the epitome of the most comfortable pens in the hand. And I'm going to focus primarily on the pens that are available today that you can still get. And then I'll talk about some that you might be a little harder to get a hold of afterwards. But the top 10, and this is in no particular order, it's just how I wrote my list. Let's start off with kind of an unusual pen. This is the Stipula Aturia series. And now there are a lot of different models in the Aturia series by Stipula. There's the Stipula Rainbow series, there's the Ebonite series, there's the Magnifico series, there's the 12-sided series. So lots of different Aturias, but the one thing they have in common is that they're about the same size. And here are two of them. And they have a similar grip, the way that they're held in the hand. And that's why I would say the whole model. Now, we have two of them here. This one has a super long name. This is the Stipula Aturia Rainbow Green Ebonite. I don't know why they call it rainbow, but I had another one that was actually that rainbow acrylic where it was the colors of the rainbow, and it was all in one piece of acrylic, and it ran down the entire body and cap of the pen. And I just recently sold that one, and those are very hard to find. These are not as hard to find. This is the Aturia Magnifica. The difference is that this one's a piston filling pen. And Stipula's pistons work the opposite from all other brands. For some reason, you twist them to the right this way to extend the piston, and the other way to bring them back down. And the piston itself rotates in the barrel, which is kind of an unusual thing too. Anyway, but the reason to me that they are so comfortable is the shape of the pen. It's a large pen, it fits in my hand, but then this section right here is kind of hourglass shaped, and it's kind of narrow, but it really does kind of lock the nib into my hand. And there's nothing on this barrel that I feel that is interrupting or like won't put a crease in my finger or anything like that. It's just a very smooth and very comfortable pen to hold, and it's not heavy either. And so kind of what I'm looking for when I'm thinking about a comfortable pen is it's where I put my fingers on the pen is smooth. I like the hourglass shape. It's very comfortable in the hand, and there's nothing distracting about it at all. And I can focus on the writing and not on the pen, even though these are fun to look at. And this is the Aturia Magnifica, and you can see it's got that same shape with that hourglass section here, and very smooth in the hand, but this one is a cartridge converter pen. Both of them are fantastic. This is going to be a cheaper pen than this one. If you can find a different iteration of those are great pens. And as far as size goes, these are larger pens. They're large, kind of like the Conid bulk filler, which is exactly the same size as the, sorry, Gotta clarify there. This is the Mont Blanc 149, which is a very large pen and maybe too large for some people. And this has a very large section. And the reason it's not quite as comfortable is just because it's that much bigger. I love this pen, and I use it all the time. And this is just barely edged out by the Aturia as far as comfort goes. Same with this one. This is also a very comfortable pen, but it's got some sharp threads right there, which really aren't a problem, and this is a very comfortable pen, and I would use it all day long too, but these are just a little more comfortable, and that's the point of this video, is these pens that are very comfortable. Not necessarily my favorite pens overall, but if I'm talking about a very comfortable pen, these are the winners of that size of pen. Okay, so that's the Aturia. Now, another brand that I really like, and you might see some kind of similarities between all of these pens as far as the comfort factor goes. These are pens by Desiderata. These are made by Pierre Miller out of Chicago, and these are really fantastic pens. His pens, the form factor of them is really, really nice. I love the kind of, I don't even know what to describe this shape as, but it's very, very sleek. And it fits in your hand. It's lightweight. Your fingers are kind of locked in where they're at, not in a bad way, but in a way that just it makes it comfortable to write for long sessions. These ones are fitted with Zebra G type nibs, so they're flexible, but you can put normal size nibs in them. If this one, which is the Sobriquet, is a little bit small for you and you want a larger one, or if that is the size for you and you don't want a larger one like this Dumka, there's just the two different sizes. They're just a little bit different as far as size goes. The Dumka is the larger of the two, but they're both very comfortable pens in the hand. Beautiful form factor on them, made out of woods or ebonites or other different materials. Beautifully crafted as well. But anyway, but they're very comfortable, and that's the point of what I'm talking about today, is they're very comfortable in the hand. They fill your hand. They don't feel out of place. You're not going to be posting them, but you can. But I find for long writing sessions, the cap posted can be kind of a distraction, so I don't tend to do it. But this pen, that cap is very, very light. You don't hardly notice it there, so if you like to have a posted cap, you can do that for long periods of time with these pens as well. So that's the Desiderata, and that's number 2. Number 3 is kind of an interesting pen from Penbbs. And again, you're going to see a similar form factor here. It's still got that kind of Coke bottle-esque kind of look to it. Penbbs kind of came on the scene in kind of a, in a strong way, coming out with a lot of different models. They have several models that I find quite comfortable in the hand. This is another one. This is one of their annual anniversary pens, and it has kind of the same kind of shape to it, which is also really comfortable in the hand to me. This is, let's see, the model number on this one is, oh, I can't remember the number on it. Sorry. But it was one of the anniversary pens that they came out with. It's interesting because the threads are close to the nib, but it's got that same kind of shape. It's very sleek. It fits in the hand quite well. It's very smooth. These are going to be harder to find, and they're kind of weird. If that bugs you, and the length may bug you because they're so long. The 323 by Penbbs is really hard to beat as far as a comfortable pen in the hand. It's like it's not even there. It's super light. It can be filled with a cartridge or a converter or eyedroppered, and it performs just as well regardless. It has O-rings on the section here, so that there's not gonna be any leakage. The nib units unscrew, and you can screw. You can put whatever size nib you want in there. Just a fantastic little pen for not too much money, and it's a very comfortable pen in the hand. And you can write for hours with that thing. It's just a wonderful pen. And then another one of my favorites as far as comfort goes and utility, I love the Vertex pen by Kara's Customs. And here are 3 that came in. They came in these boxes, which are these fantastic boxes that slide open. Here are 3 different versions of it. They come in different materials. This is a beautiful acrylic. That green and that swirled bronze. Oh, it's just gorgeous. Gorgeous pen. Here's another acrylic. That blue and that kind of creamy green color. And this one's made out of Ultim, which is another fantastic pen. And what I really love about the Vertex is the form. That the shape of them is just incredibly good for And it's a snap cap, so it's quick in the hand. You can get it out there immediately. It fits in your hand like the other pens I've been talking about. It's very, very sleek. There are no threads to catch your fingers on, and it's just a great pen to write with all day long or for short bursts, whatever you're going to use it for. And of course, I've made a few of them. I put a rushi and Rodden shell on this one, on the top and on the sides here. I've made now 14 Urushi coated Vertexes. I kept only these two. The rest of them are gone, either sold or given away. But like I say, they come in a lot of different materials. The nib units are Bach screw-in nib units. They have an O-ring in the barrel here, so you can eyedropper them if you want to, and you can see the O-ring right there. Why this one's red, I'm not sure, and then this one's clear. I don't remember, but you can change those out if you want to, and that may be what I did at one point or another. You can see this one's got a converter in it. A nice acrylic, and they also make them in metal. I'm not sure where. Oh, here it is. It's the pen I've been using all day today. This one's made out of aluminum. It has the acrylic section or whatever that is. But again, it's just a great pen in the hand. If you want a comfortable pen writing all day, this is a great choice. Okay, so that is 4 of the 10. Get these out of my way. Okay, now let's get into another one. And this one's more about a shape than it is about a particular pen. This is the Tibaldi. And it's the Bononia, but it's the Bononia like limited edition. There's a lower priced one and a higher priced one. The higher priced one is the one I'm talking about here, and this is the Asa Nauka. This is made in India, and this is made in Italy. The similarity is in the way they're shaped, and you can see there that this is the threads are right up here by the nib, and then the whole barrel is just as smooth and sleek. It fits in the hand beautifully. You can write with it all day long. It's just a wonderful shape, and it feels beautiful in the hand. The Nauka is kind of hard to get a hold of. You have to order it from India. This Bononia is available in different colors and materials. This one, I love the green on this one, and the nib is just gorgeous. So this is one that's fun to look at and write with. It's a piston filler, that kind of ratcheting piston filler. I believe it was sourced from Monte Grappa. Feels wonderful. Gorgeous pen, wonderful in the hand. Another winner as far as the comfort goes. And other reasons too, of course. Now let's pause that we've gotten halfway through. Let's just talk about the things that I'm looking for in a comfortable pen. These are just a few pens out there. Let's first talk about pocket pens. Pocket pens are wonderful. They're neat and they're fun, and I have a lot of them. This one, it goes up to a large pen. Most of them do when you post them. This is the Gaveco Sport with the piston filler. The only reason these aren't particularly comfortable to me is just because there's a little bit small, and I tend to, my hands tend to tense up on the grips of them, and if they're too short, they're not great to write with for long periods of time. You can always post them, but that slows you down to do that if you have to screw it to post. And then in this position, it's better, but it's so much thinner here. That's where my fingers start to tense up and start to cramp. Plus, this is made out of anodized aluminum, which to me is very slippery on my hands. Even the section is. And so if I have to use a lot of force to hold on to a pen, or it's too narrow, it's not a great pen for me for a long writing session. Same goes for very skinny pens, even though these are a lot of fun and write well. This is a Sailor Chelana. It's, as you can see, it's just this rail-thin fountain pen, which is great for taking quick notes, but long writing sessions would not be great for me and my hands. And this one, too, this is a larger pen, but this is the Graphon Faber-Castell Classic. Again, it's very thin, and one of the problems I have with it is that even though this is a sterling silver section, it's been plated with rhodium, and it's slick as as glass. And so it takes some effort that it's skinny here and it's slick. That makes for a difficult pen to hold on to for long periods of time. So those are the kind of things that I'm not looking for in a pen. So let's get on with the next few. We're going to go back to Penbbs. And I don't know exactly why this pen is so comfortable in my hand, but it is. I have a couple of these. This is the Penbbs 456. It is a vac filler, and you can see this one is clear. You can see the vac filling mechanism in there. This is the one that they call their lemon cookie. Good form factor on it, and it's a great vacuum filler. There's just something about the shape of it. It just fits my hand. And yes, there are threads here, but for some reason, I don't even touch them when I'm holding the pen. So for me, this is another very comfortable pen. And maybe it has to do with that same form factor where I've got a somewhat hourglass shaped section. It kind of bulges out around the barrel and then tapers down to the end. And it just fits in my hand so beautifully. And I can write with it all day long. It's just a wonderful shaped pen. Love it. Okay, next one. Now this one, I'm trying to shy away from pens that are vintage, but this is the Parker 51. And when we talk about the Parker 51, we're talking about literally millions of pens that were made for a couple of decades. And there are a lot of them out there. There are vacuumatic versions, there are aerometric versions, and these are all, not this one, these are all original Parker 51s from the 1940s. I have 6 of them in total, but the form factor on these ones is kind of a repeat of that same thing where you've got a tapering here and a tapering here. It's very light, fits in the hand. There's just something about it. It just feels right, and you can write with it all day long. And if you can't get a hold of, or it's too prohibitively expensive, or you're worried about getting a pen that's vintage and having to deal with the repairs and all that, you can find modern versions of it. This is a very inexpensive Hero 616. It's nearly identical to the originals. They're not made as well, they're not as robust, but they have some interesting changes, like right here, this little bit here in the cap ring is clear, so it's a tiny bit of a sight window on the amount of ink that's in the pen, which is kind of neat because these don't have that. There are some fantasy versions of the 51 that have that are clear, and there are some modern ones that you can get from China in particular, like this one right here. This is a Parker 51, but it's perfectly clear, and instead of a diaphragm in here from these old vacuumatics, this is a pump filler with O-rings here, but you can see everything that's going on and how this pen works. So you can get newer, cheaper ones. There's a Jinhao 51A, which again, this one is the same kind of setup, but it has a cartridge converter type system, which is incredibly modern. So there are a lot of different ones out there. And if these are a little narrow for you, there are even some fatter ones out there. This is the Hero 565, which again is a Parker 51 type pen, but it's thicker. So if you need a larger pen, this is a great one. And I've been using one of these for a couple of weeks now. It's a great pen. It works really, really well. And you can see that there are just tons and tons and tons of these 51s and 51 clones out there. They're great pens, and they're very comfortable, and they're lightweight, so they're great for long ready sessions. Another pen that's made from a boutique maker, kind of like the Desiderata. This one is made by Sean Newton. This is his Sumpter model. And I do like thicker pens most of the time. And this one, again, has that same form factor where there's a bit of an hourglass here, and then the shape of this barrel is just smooth, and there's nothing really that irritates or even just that leaves an impression on the hand at all. It's just a tool that's in your hand. It's very smooth, very comfortable, and yet it's beautiful. Very nicely made. This one is a syringe filler made by Sean himself, and then you put it in the ink, draw it up, fills completely with ink. Great pen. Love this thing. I had this thing inked pretty much the entire time since I picked it up from him nearly 2 years ago. Great pen. And the Opus 88 demonstrator. Now this one is kind of an anomaly. The Opus 88, where did I hide it from myself? Oh, here we go. Opus 88 is a great pen company out of Taiwan. their history making pens for other manufacturers and such. They tend to make these Japanese style eyedropper filling systems where the barrel fills up with ink, you eyedropper it and fill it, and you have this shut-off valve that, when screwed shut, keeps the ink from flowing from the barrel up into the nib. So I like that system. But there's something about the shape of this pen that when I have it in my hand, it just feels like it's barely there. It just fits in my hand. It doesn't have that taper like the others do, and it's not quite as hourglass up here, but for some reason, this pen just fits my hand. I can't describe why, but when I put it in my hand, I just know this is a very comfortable pen for me. I have other pens by Opus 88. This is the Omar version, which is slightly different from the demo in that it's more contoured. It has more of that shape, like I was mentioning before, where the bulges and narrows at the back, and it feels very, very comfortable too. But for some reason, this one fits a little bit better in my hand. I'm not sure why. I don't know if it's that metal ring touching the back of my hand there. I'm not sure what it is, and then maybe it's that. I really don't know. This should be the one of the two that I like the best, but I like this one the best for some reason. It's just, who knows? Comfort, it may not be one of those things you can always describe or explain easily. But the Opus 88 Demonstrator is a fantastically comfortable pen for me. Now, the last one I'm going to mention, this is number 10 or number 1, depending on how you counted this down, but this is the 10th pen I'm talking about. And I showed before the Mont Blanc 149. It's a large pen, comfortable in the hand, large nib, piston filler, great pen. This is the smaller version. This is the 146. It looks exactly the same. It's just smaller. Normally, I like larger pens, but for some reason, if I have to write all day long, this one is just a little more comfortable in my hand. It just fits a little bit better, and I can write with it all day long, and it's a beautiful wet writing pen too. So the 146 is the last of the ones I was going to talk about as far as my top 10 fountain pens for comfort. And just to recap really quickly, the first one was the Stipula Aturia. Gosh, I've got pens all over the place. The Stipula Aturia, the Desiderata, and I'll use the Dumka here, the Penbbs 323, the Kara's Vertex. Oh my gosh, I had a handful of those things just in my hand a moment ago, and now I've set them aside. We'll grab one here. The Tebaldi and the Nauka. Put the Tebaldi on here. The Penbbs 456. The Parker 51. The Sumpter by Sean Newton. The Opus 88 Demonstrator. And the Mont Blanc 146. Those are my top 10 pens that you can buy fairly readily and are just incredibly comfortable in the hand for me for long writing sessions. All of them should be great writers, and all of mine have been right out of the box. Now I'm going to talk about a few vintage pens. These, the reason I didn't mention these as part of the top 10 is simply because they are not as readily available. And maybe you have a lot of those drawbacks as far as vintage fountain pens that people may have. The first one I want to talk about are oversized pens. Now, the vintage oversized pens were made by a lot of different manufacturers. There were flat tops, and then there were some of these more contoured ones, but these are all oversized pens from the vintage era. Now, the reason I mentioned the oversized ones is just because, for me, I have larger hands, and pens in the old times used to be pretty small. An example would be, one of these old ebonite pens, from back in the day. They're wonderful writers. There's really not much to complain about. It's just that they're smaller and thinner, and so just not quite as comfortable in my hand. So I prefer the larger ones. They are more like the same size as modern pens are. Like, you put the Sumpter in here, and it seems like a monster amongst these large pens, but It's just that pens were smaller back in the day. You put it in, drop a Kara's Vertex in there, and it's, right in the same size range. The 149 is a little bit bigger, but, so pens have kind of shifted as far as the size than what we consider a normal sized pen. These were all considered oversized back in the day, which is why I mentioned, for me, they are very comfortable pens to write with. The Balance pens by Schaefer have that same kind of that teardrop, the elongated torpedo teardrop shape that is just so comfortable in my hand. They're great. So the Oversized Balance pens are just fantastic. The only drawback to me is that sometimes this ridge right here, where the threads and the section meet, is a little sharp sometimes, and that's the one thing that just bugs me a tiny bit. So this large PFM, which is the quintessential 60s pen from Schaefer, fantastic in the hand. This is one of the most comfortable pens in my hand, period. But because they're vintage and harder to find, I didn't put them in the top 10. And these older flat top pens, similar to the Opus 88 Demonstrator, they're just these large flat top pens, and for some reason they just work well for me. They fit in my hand, and they just feel great. This one's by Moore. This one is a gold bond. No, gold medal. This is a gold medal pen. But Schaefer also made them. Parker made them. And this is a Conklin. Just that form factor, for some reason, works for me. And so I like them as well. The big oversized vintage pens. And another very comfortable pen to me is the Wall Eversharp Skyline, which again has kind of that same form factor where it's torpedo shaped, it's sculpted, and it feels fantastic in the hand. It's a little thin, but for some reason it works and it feels great in the hand, and for me is a pen that I could write with all day long, provided you have one that's in proper working order. And I have a whole bunch of them. I've got 7 or 8 of them. And the last pen I'll talk about that I find very, very comfortable but will be difficult for people to get a hold of are these old vintage Waterman oversized safety pens. Now the way they work is you crank out the nib like that, but the shape and the size of these pens in my hand just makes them fantastic for long writing sessions. Some of them may not be particularly good for that. They may, because of how they write, they may dribble on you. But if they're in good shape like these ones are, they are fantastic. Now this one's going to be a really hard one to find. This is a very much large, oversized Waterman. This is a model 46. But it's just, these things are just incredibly comfortable in my hand. I love it. I always have one inked up. This is the one I have inked up right now. This one's not quite as big as these other two, but it's still large enough that it just feels comfortable in the hand, and I don't get cramped up as I would with some of the smaller ones. Anyway, so comfort is in the hand of the beholder, but for me, these are my favorite comfortable pens. And if you have any questions, please leave a comment. Talk to you later.